There's been a lot of changes going on in the United States today with immigration, visas, and mortgages. So make sure you watch this entire video so you don't get taken advantage of or lose thousands of dollars in your home buying process here in the United States. And number one thing you need to know is that yes, you can get a mortgage here in the United States, but you're going to have a different down payment requirement than a US citizen. So if you go online, you'll find a lot of articles talking about how you can get a loan with only 3.5 to 5% down. But if you're an international foreign investor or family looking to buy a home here in the United States, you actually usually need about 30 to 50% down on your mortgage. So if you're going to take on a loan to buy the home, we call that a mortgage here in the United States. And you have a higher down payment requirement because there's more risk of lending to a foreign family investor, especially if they don't have a credit history in the United States already. And some lenders will take advantage of you and require a lot more fees. So it's really important to get your right lender. We'll get more into that later. Number two thing that you must know and actually start working on is getting a valid visa or a passport. You don't have to be a citizen to buy a home here. You don't even have to have your visa yet. You can buy a home if you're still overseas and you're working on getting your visa, but it makes things a lot easier in the lending process to get your mortgage. It's just good to have these documents ready. If you don't know where your passport is, you don't know where your visa is, start working, getting those in order, getting those visa process done, talking with a qualified immigration attorney here in the United States to help you. Because if you mess with the wrong one, it could cost you years, not just months, years of delay in your application in order to buy a home, get a mortgage, or even to come over here to the United States or send your kids here. Number three thing that you need to start working and getting together, what I recommend is getting an online drive, like a Google Drive here in the States, a Dropbox that has at least 2 years of bank statements from your international bank to show money history, money coming in, money coming out, because pretty much every single lender here in the United States is going to be asking for these documents. And if you don't have them, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to get a loan at all. And number four, if you don't have a USA credit report, a lot of people who reach out to us don't have one. Sometimes, especially Korea, Thailand, China, you can get a letter from your bank or an international credit score as well. We're going to go more into that on future videos, but just be aware that it might be best to start asking your bank if they have any type of credit score system to provide you with documentation during the lending process. And number five thing you may want to start working on now before you even start looking at homes is getting a USA bank account. Now, you don't need one, but what I've seen, just from my experience, if you have a USA bank account, it makes it a little bit easier. There's less fees, there's less risk of you defaulting on a loan, especially if you have a certain amount of income in your US bank. It just makes everything a lot easier. So something you might want to consider of slowly transferring money to your USA bank account to show that you're able to pay back the debt that you're about to borrow. Now, part three is where you might want to consider reaching out to us. So our team, we have a group of real estate agents, lenders, and an entire white glove service where we work with everybody, kind of coordinated effort to make your life actually easier coming over here to the United States when you take care of all the little details, because we've already spent hundreds and hundreds of hours learning this material, working with people, moving them over here, so we can make your life, like we can make your move so much easier. If you want everything, if you want to spend the hours of research yourself, you can definitely do this on your own. Just be aware you're gonna have to spend a lot of time, a lot of resources of vetting people, seeing what's going to work for you and your family, or we can just bump you up real quick for a premium service and just take care of all that so you can focus on your own business and your other life issues and being with your family more, but that's completely up to you. But if you're going to do this part on your own, it's very important to spend hours and hours vetting, going over lenders to see if they're used to working with international clients due to the laws of loans to international citizens. So it's just something you need to be aware of. You need to pick the right lender. Each location is going to be fairly different. If you're thinking about going to Los Angeles, so we work primarily in 4 states. We have California, Florida, New York, and Washington State. Those are the states that we focus on and already have a team ready to help your life be easier. But there's certain cities in each state that's just a lot easier to find lenders who are used to dealing with international clients. Like Los Angeles is really good at dealing with a lot of clients. You just have to find the right one. There's a lot of attorneys and lenders over there. Miami is another great city. New York City is another place that's really used to dealing with international clients. But the first part, you'll need to find a lender who's used to dealing with international buyers. Number 2 part of this step is going to be gathering all those documents. If they're in a different script, so like Mandarin Chinese, most likely they'll need to be translated over into English by using a professional translating service. So just be aware of that. You need to get those translated before you give them to a lot of lenders here in the States. And that lender is going to look over your documents that you hand them. And that lender is actually going to get you pre-approved for a loan. And this pre-approval process doesn't mean you get the loan already. It just means that you're pre-approved, means that they've done the basic research on your profile and they're telling you this is how much you can possibly borrow through using us as a lender. But remember, this is not 100% guaranteed. And if you deal with a company that is not used to work with international buyers, unfortunately, that amount may be very, very wrong. Once you get that pre-approval, then you start home searching here in the United States. Definitely make sure you're working with a real estate agent that's used to working with international buyers, especially from China. There's certain rules for Chinese buyers and citizens from different countries as well. Like you have to be like 10 miles away from a military base currently. So it's really important you pick the right real estate agent and not just somebody who's just doing this on the side. You want a real estate professional. Spend time getting to know them and see if they're a good fit for you and your family. Once you find the home, then you submit for the final approval on your loan. This is where things are going to get a lot more serious and it can be approved or denied for your purchase of this home. And the final step of this process is that you're going to close on your home. This means you take ownership of the home. For a lot of international buyers with a mortgage, this is usually about 30 to 60 days dependent on the lender. And you're going to wire usually the funds from your home country into the escrow company. It's a company that holds all the funds for the closing date. Now, if you're wondering what's the typical terms of loans for international buyers, usually you can borrow about 50 to up to 70% of the value of the home depending on the lender. So you can't borrow 100% of the home purchase. You're going to usually put, I would say, slightly above 50% down depending on your lender. Your mortgage rates are going to be typically 1 to 2% higher than a US citizen's mortgage rate. Now, you do not, repeat, you do not need a USA credit report or credit score in order to get a mortgage. If anybody tells you this, it means they're not used to working with international buyers. And this is a major red flag. Do not use that lender because, I repeat, you do not need a USA credit report to buy a home in America. And after you close on your home, some lenders require you have at least 6 to 12 months of funds in a bank ready to go. That's why that USA bank that we talked about in the beginning is going to be very, very important to have towards closing, or there might be an issue at closing where you buy the home, you've already wired over $100,000+, but you can't purchase it and you may lose that money. So it's very important to deal with people who know this process very well, because that USA bank account could be the reason why you lose all that money. So don't skip that step. So if you're looking to purchase a home and you want to know what cities are usually pretty good for international buyers, I would say South Florida is number one by far. South Florida is very straightforward for my team and I. We work a lot down here. Los Angeles is another area that's we work a lot in as well, so it's not that bad of an area. Seattle is, that's where you kind of get kind of iffy with certain laws, unfortunately. And New York City, believe it or not, has a lot of international buyers, but you must know what you're doing, or you're going to lose thousands and thousands of dollars. Just to be aware of that. Just some tips if you're planning on buying a home here in the United States and you're from China, Latin America, or another country in general, consider working with a bilingual real estate agent. This is really important so you know exactly what they're telling you. You both have a good understanding. That's why we have over 5 different languages that we have a team proficient on in our team to try and streamline everything. Make sure you get a decent immigration attorney. I find a lot of times the immigration attorney can cause years of delay on somebody's application here in the United States due to all the documentation that's needed. Or in order to be an immigration attorney, it's not that hard for a lot of people. There's a lot of them. And to be honest, most of them are not good at all. That's why it's really good to find a good one and hold on to them for dear life. And if you want to avoid a lot in taxes, if you're planning on giving your property to your kids later, consider set up an LLC, something you can do here in the States, and our attorneys can help you with that as well. But it kind of helps you with the tax purposes, and it makes ownership of your property not really in your name, but in your LLC. So it kind of helps out. Depending on your situation, everybody's going to be slightly different, but sometimes it's the best scenario for very, very high net worth individuals looking to purchase here, especially in Florida, because we actually don't have a state income tax. All the other ones, you're going to have a tax on your income here in America, besides Seattle, but they have different taxes you have to worry about. But Florida is probably your best bet if you're trying to avoid spending money on taxes. Now, if you're serious about relocating to the United States or purchasing a property and you don't want anything to go wrong, you want everything to be taken care of by a professional party, book a consultation with us on the website link below. We'd love to help you and your family to see if we're a good fit, and we can present you with some plans and options with different pricing to see what level of service is what you and your family needs. We have different levels of programs we offer and see which one fits best for you. Other than that, take care.